All righty, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started. We are broadcasting live on YouTube. If anybody wants to check it out, go ahead and do so. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and grab this link, and I want to share that real quick, and then we'll dive in and get started. We'll do a screen share. All righty. The first thing we're going to do is log into wayneslockshop.com. 6 people entered the waiting room. Okay. Let everybody in. All right, we're just letting everybody in right now. And the first thing, like I said, is we're going to log into Wayne's Lock Shop. Go to the forum section. Once we go to the forum section, we can then go to commercial locksmithing, or wait a minute, no. I'm sorry, electronic access control. Once we do electronic access control, we can go ahead and see the latest project that we were working on. This project was kind of dropped in our lap last minute, and that's fine. I have no issues with that. It kind of messes up timing. So the whole thing behind it, I can't get into too much detail about exactly what happened, just because there's all the security and everything going on, but it is for a school. And there were some things that happened last week that provoked or scared, if you will, them into upping the timeline on this process and making us get this done a little bit quicker. The problem with that is we didn't have very much time. So basically we had to work all day Friday. And then at 3 o'clock after they get out of school, we then had to start an additional 8-hour shift from 3 till about 10 or 11 or so, and work that night, and then all day the next day, get back on site at 7. It's an hour and a half drive. So we got to leave at 6, a little before 6, about 5:45, and then work another, 10, 12-hour day. And then finally on Sunday, again, come back again and do it one more time, pull another 10 or 12-hour day. But the bottom line is we did get the job done, and we charged accordingly for our extra emergency services. And what we did is we installed all of these locks here. Now, these are the Schlage AD series. So there's myself, John Nolan, my technician, Josh, and John's technician, Aaron. And all of these boxes, and they're stacked up this high behind us as well. Okay. So we had to put all these on. And if you've ever installed this lock, it is not easy to do. Okay. I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not an easy lock to install. If you haven't done it before, it's going to be a brutal learning curve very quickly. They're great locks. I mean, they're tough, they're heavy duty, they have a lot of features, but there are a lot of steps to installing them. So I want to show you what it takes to actually install one of these. Okay. Let's see here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the jig on. I would never, under any circumstances whatsoever, try and install this lock without having a jig. Now you can see we have all these different carts set up. You can see we're not playing around here. We came with game, and we came to play. We came to play big time. Okay, you don't get almost 90 locks installed of these kind of locks for mortise body and panic hardware. You don't get that many of these installed in 3 days if you're not hooking it and booking it and you're not organized. So here's the major jig that's going to be going on this door. Now, they were mortise body locks before, so the mortise is already prepped out. What we're doing is we're re-drilling all of the holes that go onto it so that we can adapt this lock to it. Now, you'll notice the first thing that we see is there's this black plate that actually bolts and it screws directly into the mortise faceplate area, okay? After that, that lines up a center pin with the rest of this big blue jig. And we're going to see a lot more of this jig as we move forward here, okay? So this is the HIT 66280. And again, he's just tightening the top, tightening the bottom. We're going to have all our cross and through bolts here. And then it's all centered. The way that this is lined up or aligned on the door is it actually lines up on a peg that bolts to the faceplate of the mortise body. So now we can see we've only got that smaller hole and at the bottom here. And the instructions did say they did require or recommend drilling that 2 1/8 inch hole for the bottom hole here. Okay. So we're going to have to drill that one out too. And then some of these holes are only drilled on one side. Some of them are only a certain amount of depth. And then this one here on the edge is a big angled hole. So there's a lot of holes to drill with this. So what we did is we got everybody set up with a cart and one person, one job. That's it. You go through, you blow out your job. If you're prepping doors, we're not switching people and we're not switching parts around. So once you have it in your head that I do these 5 steps, I put the jig on and I drill these 10 holes or whatever it is, and then I pull the jig off and I vacuum everything up and then I move on to the next door. That's my job. That's a lot easier than put the jig on, drill everything out, pull it off, vacuum, same person, mounts the hardware, starts putting the hardware on and does all of this and then moves to the next door. That was taking over an hour to do it that way when we were all huddled around the first one. And the way that we did this is we huddled around the first one and we wanted to see what was going on with it. And we wanted to see exactly all of the steps. Then we can refine it and make it faster. Once we refine it and make it faster, then we can really start cooking with it. So the very first one took about an hour to do. Okay, so here's how that plate, this is that plate that bolts on the faceplate cover. And then here's the alignment peg right here that holds the jig onto that particular piece. Okay. So here we've got a piece of ram board. This was also nice for cleanup. It's like a big piece of cardboard, like thick cardboard to protect the flooring. But in these nice square sheets, you just set that down, you put it underneath the door. It doesn't roll up like a tarp or a drop cloth that balls up as you move the door around. And all of the mess ends up on the ram board. Then you pick the ram board up, you fold it, and you put it in the trash can. Okay, super easy. We'll make a big giant mess with all this stuff, especially fire doors that have that chalky stuff in them. Just gets into the carpet and makes a gigantic mess. So having this here is really, really helpful. That also is one of the fastest ways we were able to get through too. So here's Josh. He's using a 2 1/8 inch hole saw coming in from the sides as per Schlage's, or I'm sorry, Allegion's requirements for their installation. Here he is drilling this 3/4 inch hole down the center. So this is for your door position sensor. So every time you see those door position sensors, that's what this hole is here. That's going to sink down in, and then there's actually going to be an angled hole that comes off of this 3/4 inch hole down to here, which I'll show you here in just a little bit. Okay. Notice how we have the cart set up. Here's another jig. This jig, the gold jig, was for the exit devices for the panic bar system. Same lock, AD-400, just for exit devices. Okay. Which we were able to use later, and it just kind of so happened to fit on the handle really well like this. Now you can see I've taken one of those hand trucks that folds down, and I've mounted this pack out gear to it so that it can click in, and I can click in my basket, I can click in my tool bag, I can click in my drill bits, and now I'm very versatile and ready to go. We also have multiple drills. This hole saw just stays in that drill all day long. This 3/4 inch bit just stays in that drill all day long. The other ones all had their own individual bits. That way you're not taking the time to change bits back and forth. We tested this. We showed how long does it take to prep the door without doing that, and how long does it take to prep the door with doing it. And we shaved about 3.5 minutes off of it just from changing bits back and forth. Okay. Here we have, I believe these are 7/16 drill bits sizes that are coming in for the mounting holes from each side. And this looks like the center one here for the, that would be for the door position sensor wires, I'm believing. Now this hole doesn't actually go all the way through the door. According to the jig, in right here, it's stamped in big letters, do not drill all the way through, or inside hole only, something to that effect. So you're only drilling halfway through the door. There's 2 ways to accomplish that. One is you can measure the drill bit and see how far it is out on the jig. And the second is you can actually just take the drill bit, hold it up to the door right here, get it down to the middle. You want to be to the middle or slightly past the middle, and then hold it to the edge of the jig and use a Sharpie and Sharpie it, or a piece of tape. Okay. That way you don't over drill. Sharpie works great. Tape, it's harder to get off, but it's going to last longer throughout the day. Sharpie will wear off if you run the Sharpie in the hole. Okay, and now here's that angle drill. Now you can kind of see this reason right here is the main reason why I would not try and install these locks without having a jig. It's just pointless. Getting this hole drilled at that perfect angle to align this hole with that hole is very, very difficult. It's time consuming with a jig. Okay. So then here he is plunged all the way down. So this is before, and then this is drilled all the way in and plunged all the way down. Okay. Here's what the door looks like after the prep. You can see all this sawdust and stuff in here. So what did we do? We had somebody coming by. He's got a vacuum hooked up on this, and he'll vacuum all that mess out of there, vacuum all of the sawdust out of the holes. It was very detrimental to our installation if you left sawdust in the hole. Okay? Because what happens is you put that in, and then how many times does this happen to you guys? You're working on a Von Dupper 99 exit device, and whoever was there before you cross-threaded one of those bolts or tightened it too tight or added Loctite, and then the post comes out. Now you go to take it off and back it off, and now the post comes out of the Von Dupper 99. Same thing happens here. You get a little piece of wood or a little fiber or something in there. It gets jammed down in the hole, and then you run that screw in and force it in. It acts just like Loctite, and now you're kind of hosed because it's going to pull that stud out. You're going to have to pull all that stuff apart. So making sure that the door is completely vacuumed out and prepped is part of the prep for the wood doors. Now we've got, looks like he's taking that piece off here. Hold on one sec. So he's taking that pin off right here, that plate that goes to the jig for the mortise body plate. And then everything goes back in. See, we've got a hole saw, we've got that long drill bit, and we've got that 3/4 inch drill bit right here, all stacked up in the basket, ready to go with the jigs and everything else. So he can move efficiently and quickly throughout the area. Also, let's go back 1 second, and you can see how all the mess falls down on the ram board right here. That's what you want. Then you just pick it up, dump it in the trash, move on about your day. This is how much dirt and debris and dust and stuff that this creates. So having this vacuumed out, we just take the little 18-volt vacuum, take the attachments, vacuum everything out, and it works just fine. That was the door position sensor there as well. Here's the vacuum that's clicked onto our cart, so he can literally just move effortlessly. When you watch him engage with the cart, he doesn't spend a lot of time. It's grab the drill, use the drill, put the drill back. Grab the vacuum, use the vacuum, put it back. Grab the jig, use the jig, put it back. Very easy because it's all a big open design, okay? Now we're going to take a look at how to do this on a metal door. We're actually going to look at the installation of the lock on this metal door because they're a little bit different. Okay. So we're going to have to come out of that one and we're going to come down here. Actually, we're going to do the installation on a wood door first. That was the one that he just prepped, I believe. So here's what the door looks like when I come up to it. I knock all this stuff off, get all that stuff off of there, get all the splinters and stuff off, have a nice smooth surface to mount on. And then we throw the mortise body in. First thing, how do we hand that mortise body? It is field handable. You can put a screwdriver in between the body of the case in here, and then you literally just grab on the strike. You literally just grab it, pull it out, twist it, and now you're rehanded. If you have the hand strength to pull past that spring and turn, great. I could do that a couple times. After the 20 or 30th lock, I just didn't have enough strength in my hand. So I would actually use a screwdriver to come up under the plate, use it to do the lifting, and then I would just rotate it so that it was handed correctly. Okay, now we're all handed, and you can go ahead and put your faceplate. Now, this would normally be not conventional. Normally, you'd have to put locks, and you'd need to add the cylinders, and you'd need access to this set screw. Because we're going all electronic, you don't need any of that. You can literally make the faceplate your second thing you put in. So the mortise body goes in first, plate goes right in on top of it. That way you don't forget about it, and you don't have to worry about it. Next is the door position sensor. Door position sensor's wires run right in here, and then they're going to run right down into this little cavity right here in this hole, in which we'll then use hemostats to grab it and pull it out of there. Okay, now you can kind of see what that's starting to look like. And here's the beginning of the installation of the lock. Okay, so we're going to start off with the tailpiece here. And so what we've got are these two little studs. Now, this is where this becomes a little bit different than the cylindrical prep. Okay, this is mortise body prep. So right here, right off the bat, we've got these two little posts that thread in. Okay, and they've already got Loctite and everything built in right in on them. You're going to have to look and see there's only two holes that are drilled large enough for those to go through the mortise body. If you get it wrong, you just simply need to flip them. Okay, but they just hand tight. And then as I put it on, as I drive the screw in from the other side, the torque from that screw is going to get applied to the stud, and it's going to crank everything down. Because there's Loctite on here, it's going to stay as opposed to not staying on there. Okay. Then you can see we've got the door position wires come out here, and the little tag, or the little connector on the back of that lock pops through this hole right here. That's what that hole is for. You can see it right through on the other side. Wires just come right through. Then everything's going to line right up, slide right in, 4 bolts line up. Now on the other side, on the inside, the first thing you're going to install is this plate with these 2 screws, these taper head screws. They're the only taper head screws in the box. Okay, so we got wires through, and then we've got this plate on the backside, and these screws are going to tap into those 2 studs that we just added to the lock. Here's what they look like kind of sticking out. And here's what they look like all in. Additionally, you'll have some little teeny tiny wood screws. They go here or here and here or here. Now, John was installing this one. He likes them to be on the same side. I kind of like to get a little bit more spread out. So I like to mount mine here and here. If I've got 2 screws here and here, I want to go at a diagonal and kind of spread that weight out a little bit. Not going to make very much difference, but it's worth mentioning. Next thing we're going to do is install the spring down the spindle hole on the interior side. The only side that gets a spring that we could find on these was the interior side. then your spindle is going to go right on top of the spring, just like so. Then you're going to make sure there's two little arrows down here. Make sure those are orientated correctly. And you are ready to put this on the door. Okay. That looks like the end of that one. Where did he go? Next thing I do is I put the battery pack in. Do not hook the battery pack up, okay? You want to leave it disconnected until you have made all of the other connections, and you're going to have to install a chip on this thing too. Okay, so do not hook power up till last. But I do like to do this while it's in my hand because these screws are kind of a pain, and if you're trying to do it while you're holding things up, it's more difficult versus if it's in your lap or on a cart, you can let gravity hold that screw in place. Next, we're going to have these 4 bolts, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, and then we're going to have 2 long bolts right here that go through and actually grab the reader on the outside. Okay. Just put in the lock directly up to the hole. The hole is going to have to be drilled out larger than the hole or the post that's actually on the lock. And this is kind of a security item. If somebody tries to twist the lock off the door, this is going to prevent that from happening. It's going to remain trapped in that hole. Here's what the battery looks like with the 2 battery screws. Just go ahead and crank those down. Now for the wiring, you can see the wires come in this hole up here, and then the main power wire that goes to the outside comes in through this little sleeve right here, and he plugs in right over in here. These 2 door position wires go to DPS, door position sensor, because that's what those are, and they're going to go right into this little terminal block here. Okay, that's what it looks like with the whole thing. We also had to put this little pad up. Now, I don't know exactly what this little thing does, but I'm guessing it kind of blocks signal because there's a chip that goes right on here. So it prevents things from being taken from the lock, like information, and I believe it shields against information coming in contact with the lock because we're now on the secure side. And this is just a piece of adhesive. They wouldn't send it if it didn't do anything important, obviously. I just haven't been told exactly what it would do. The only thing I can think of is, again, that so it can't read or transmit any signals through the lock without being authorized. On the back side, we've got the cover plate. Fairly straightforward. And here's what that metal or lead piece looks like installed. 2 mounting screws, 2 screws that go all the way through on the other side, door position sensor wrapped around and hooked up and engaged. And then this little wire is hooked up and engaged as well. Here's what the finished product looks like. Kind of a big, heavy-duty lock, but definitely pretty, pretty heavy-duty. Let's see here. Nice, love the way to do it. Any concerns about voiding the label? Yeah, I mean, it's you'd have to have the doors recertified. Drilling a large hole like that is probably going to void the fire label rating. At the end of the day, all we can do is tell the contractor, hey, this hardware is going to void the fire label rating of the door, or you'll have to get them re-inspected. That's all we can do. So I appreciate the thought of that, but at the point we had to just keep moving. Let's see. Second and third tangible questions. How are these locks selected versus another brand? How long between submitting bid and awarded the job? So for this job, we didn't get the bid, technically. We didn't supply the hardware at all. We were actually hired by a third party, or, we were hired by contractors. Because here's what happened. This lock is so complicated to install, and there's so many steps to it, and it's so specific, and that jig is so needed for these kind of installs that the contractors really couldn't even do it. So they needed us to do it. So we went ahead and did it, but we charged, a premium rate to do so, obviously. So we didn't actually select the brand. Okay. We didn't spec the product. We didn't spec anything out on this. The contractor is the one that did all that. And so we just gave them a per door price. It's going to be this much for us to drill the door and put the hardware on there. Take the old hardware off, drill the door and prep it, and put the new hardware on. That's all we gave them a price for. And here's what it looks like all done. The SFIC, and yes, it is a SFIC. It's not LFIC, it's SFIC. It fits right in. It works really good. So then we just had somebody coming around afterwards and changing the keys out. And that looks like the end of that pod of videos. So I'm going to show you how to do this one more time on a metal door. Okay. And then once we do this, this is designed to be our short meeting. So we'll probably wrap it up here shortly. Just wanted to show you guys what we did over the weekend. This is the prep on a metal door. I mean, just look at how beautiful those holes are. Look at how everything's nice and straight. Look at that. Just there's no comparison trying to install these locks with and without a jig. You need the jig to do it. Door position sensor, mortise body lock. Here's what the backside looks like. Now, again, see, there's more holes. There's extra holes on the inside than there is on the outside. So if you drill those holes all the way through, you're going to have a bad day. Okay, so here's what the mortise pocket looks like. We go ahead and get all that stuff cleaned out of there. Make sure it's a healthy door to put it on and put the mortise body package in. Tighten it down. You can use an impact if you choose. I've got a pretty good feeling for it as to when it's going to start breaking things, and we just try not to let it get to that point. Here we have 2 screws in. It's now been handed correctly. And we can put the faceplate on. Door position sensor, just like so, comes out right here. Now you'll see this one's actually upside down, but I've got the hemostats, or whatever you want to call them, to grab that wire, because it doesn't go all the way through. If it went all the way through, I could push it through on the other side, but I had to reach in there and grab and pull to get these pulled out. And you can see that angle goes from here down to here, pretty steep angle. Here's one of the studs being installed. Now, again, you can take a wrench and wrench these down. My philosophy was this: these have Loctite, the other screws do not. As I'm impacting and driving down the screw, when I put it in on the other side, it's going to be rotating this too, and they're both going to be at the same amount of torque. One just has Loctite on it and one doesn't. Hopefully the one without the Loctite is the one that just breaks the seal and keeps on going. Here's those 2 little studs now. Wonder if this is backwards. No? Yep, that's what it looks like right there. Then you need to put that little tail piece in and your spring in there. Beautiful. Ready to rock and roll. Mount it up on the door. We already pulled the door position sensor through, and we just need to pull the back of the cord of the exterior portion of the lock through. Pretty close. Now, these are going into those studs, but what about the extra little wood screws that we put out here before? Well, I'll give you a little tip and a little trick for that. You can choose to do it. You can choose not to do it. I believe it came with a factory UL listing. Therefore, it maintains that listing as long as I work on it. Yeah. And then again, we got all our wires through, all is good. And you can see we got the 2 screws here and here, and that's all there is to it. And then this one here, this must have been that one that we installed the wrong hardware on there or something. So we got to buy him a new door. Now that it's not so complicated, you can see how this system works and how this pins on here. Were we competing with other companies? I mean, we're always competing with other companies, but did any other companies have the equipment to get those jigs on site and have 4 people roll up or 5 people able to roll up and steamroll this job like it needed to have? There's not many people that can flex that hard here. There's not that many companies that could even keep up with that, let alone stay at the pace we stayed at. So, they could shop around, sure, but it is what it is. We're going to work best when you just tell us what you need to have done and let us deliver the results. So who these were ordered from, I believe they were ordered through IML, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure. So hopefully that answers all your question, Robert. Clutch lever. I mean, it's not active until the electronics engage. Once you engage the electronics, then it's open. So it's kind of a hybrid. All right, let's pick up where we left off. 2 of the taper screws are going to go into those long studs. I'm going to start sucking everything together. Yeah, we're going to put that plate on. Then see, we've got the screw up here and screw down here. It's not going to do anything. It's just, I mean, it's not going to impede anything. It'll just be a little extra support. Here we go. Here's the backside. Front side. I think I'll go through the handing process at some point here. Oh, no, I'm going to set this in my lap and I'm going to put the battery pack on now because it's a lot easier to do the battery pack while it's going down with gravity than when it's on the wall trying to fall off. There's what the whole shebang looks like. Okay, battery pictures. Leave off. All right, well, we're going to come down to this one here. We need to. This is the beginning of it right here. Let's see. Okay, so for the metal one, same thing. Just go ahead and get your 2 screws here. I like to get that battery pack out of the way. Just don't hook it up. Dump your spring on the inside, just like so. Spindle goes down in there. Spindle goes in like so. Wires are ran through the correct wiring holes. Keypad or the batteries are not plugged in yet. Very important. Now the wires go through here, and that wire goes through there, and it's now bolted through and bolted on the door. And again, we're going to come through and start using the impact driver. When you got a bunch of these to do, I would love to use a hand screwdriver. When we have this many to do, just can't do it. Okay, you got to have power tools. So using the settings and learning how to be familiar with that so you don't break or strip anything is going to be your friend. You cross thread one of these or get some wood down in that hole, it's going to be a miserable time. There's what the screw looks like. Typical 1/4 by 20. Should take care of it pretty quick. And then this little thing has a chip that plugs in. One of the last things that I do, just to keep it out of the way. And then we've got the two bottom holes right there. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Pretty well done. We've got the door position sensor mounted in. Did not get the other sensor right here for some reason. Big long screws go all the way through to the other side to grab that piece of plastic on the head and pull it tight. Here we are, just buttoning things down, just making sure we get those 4 bolts in the top, 4 or 2 in the bottom, and wherever else they want to put them. Here's the battery screw. So this one was going to be going on a metal door, and they only gave us wood screws, so we had to make this one work. Just like so, okay? DPS, that's the one you want, DPS. Here he's going to be cutting these back just a little bit so they can go in our parts bin. And here it is, all hooked up and nice and golden. That's what we left on the spring or on the wire. And then again, wires come in, wires go to door position sensor. These wires go to the lock center. Ah, the favorite part, that sticky tape foil stuff. Still haven't found out what it's used for. I'm guessing it's so that they can't steal the credential off of it now that everybody has passwords. And here's what it's looking like. Okay, very good. Then we're going to go ahead and do one with the handing, possibly. Let's see if we've got one with handing on it here. Or actually, you know what? We're just going to go ahead and finish this one up. So now we're going to put the handle on. Handle's going to come on. You can put the handle on at any point in time, as long as you don't have to rehand it. If you have to rehand it, you have to leave the handle off. Okay. So here's what it looks like with the handle on. This is the last little chip that goes in here, and it comes in a little bag that says do not touch, so don't touch it. You can grab it by the sides and then push it right smack dab in the middle with one finger if you would like to do so. Here's what that piece of lead or whatever looks like, or that aluminum foil stuff. And then I think, based on what we've done, this piece that we're installing, that shield is designed to shield whatever this is, in my opinion. Okay, there's what it looks like all stuck on the door. Okay, you can see I just pushed through, and the most important thing is there's a plug-in connection on the back there. Make sure that lines up, and then this little plastic round thing and that little plastic round thing are going to click and clip right in. Okay. And then you notice how I kind of loop the wire around. There's another switch over here. You do not want it to come in contact with that switch in any way, shape, or form. Okay, there's our little switch right there. So this comes down, loops around, bypasses, comes nowhere near the switch, and then goes over to its location. Then we finally, after everything's hooked up, then we go ahead and hook the battery power up to it. Now the lock can come alive. Okay. Tuck that all in, slip the last plate on, slip the last screw on, And now we're done. Now we can test it, make sure that it works, add our cores. Oh, I apologize. There is one more step. You got to put this cover back on as well. And the black screws go into this one. So that gray cover piece goes on, black screws cover that up, and then you are ready to rock and roll. Here's what it looks like afterwards. It's a big lock, big heavy duty lock. Okay. This is what the outside looks like. This is what the inside looks like. All the brains and everything are all on the inside. And this is on mortise body lock. Less the core. So we can go get the core if we want to. And I think that's it. It is now 4:38. So we spent about 40 minutes taking a look at this thing. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns? You can open up your microphones if you would like. Anybody? All righty. If nobody has any questions, then we'll go ahead and move on, and we'll close everything out. I'm going to go through the last little bit of messages here, or text, or the chat section. Does your local Schlage rep know we did this project? Yes, they were helping us throughout the project. Yes. DPS, hate little screwdrivers. Yes, you got to use the little teeny tiny electronic screwdriver. A lot of piece, but love install few in the past. Hate to rehand. Rehanding sucks. You got to take all the screws out and flip it around. Mortise one and the non-mortise one. Thank you. Only magnets missing on the sidewall. Yep. All righty. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.
Thanks for everything.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. This stuff is all in Wayne's Lock Shop. So if you guys want to become a member, go ahead and join. This stuff will all be there in the forum section, and I will have videos on all of this content coming out this week or next week. So for more information, check out wayneslockshop.com. Thanks for watching, and I hope everybody has a great day. Thank you.
Have a great
Take
day.
care.
Bye-bye.